We will now consider log number 4839R1 by Dr. McCormick. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will distribute the amendment. Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia for the purpose of explaining his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My amendment eliminates the sunset clause of Section 1555 of the fiscal year 2024 National Defense Authorization Act, which pushes back against the censorship of political speech by news outlets in the relation to the Department of Defense. This section requires the DoD, when contracting with organizations that place military recruitment advertisements, must certify the organization does not place advertisements based on a political bias or the determination that media outlet spreads so-called misinformation. This language is necessary because the DoD has previously contracted with organizations like NewsGuard and the Global Disinformation Index in the past, and we must ensure that they do not do so for politically discriminatory purposes in the future. According to the Immediate Research Center, the average NewsGuard score for the left and left-lean outlets was a Green Shield rating of 91 out of 100, while the average rating of a right or lean right outlets was around 66 of 100. A Global Disinformation Index reports on online news lists the 10 riskiest online news outlets as the New York Post, the Federalist, the Blaze, the Daily Wire, Newsmax, One America News Network, the American Spectator, the American Conservative, Reason Magazine, and Real Clear Politics, all conservative. While left-leaning sites like ProPublica.com, NPR.org, NewYorkTimes.com, WashingtonPost.com, BuzzFeedNews.com, and Huffington Post were among the 10 lowest risk online news sites. We're talking about misinformation here. We should not be excluding large swaths of Americans simply because they watch or read conservative news. As a matter of fact, I would make a case that that's where you recruit from. This language was the product of the fiscal year 2024 conference agreement, and the fiscal year 2025 conference agreement extended the sunset by 1 year. This language is in common sense and will maximize the impact of our recruiting advertisement, and hopes you'll agree that it should be made permanent. And I ask for my colleagues' support on amendment number 4839. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I oppose this amendment. We've had this debate the last couple of years. I mean, it's really pretty simple. This amendment says that news organizations should not fact check. That's troubling. I think most would agree that there has been a significant increase in disinformation in recent years, primarily because the ability to spread it is out there in a variety of different ways. That this is a problem. Trying to figure out what's true and what's not true is a challenge. And so the number one biggest reason I oppose this amendment is it simply dismisses that challenge and says, let's just stop fact checking. Let's just assume that whatever is printed is true and get rid of any effort to figure out whether it is or it is not. That is incredibly dangerous in this environment. We have seen misinformation spread in 1,000 different ways, but as we well know, as I think we know, as I know at any rate, China and Russia engage in this activity very aggressively. They use cyber sources and other sources to spread disinformation throughout the country. So an effort to try and determine whether or not something is misinformation is important. If in fact, as Dr. McCormick asserts, they don't do that well, there are different solutions to that, and we can figure that out. But to have in policy, and I didn't like the last 2 years of allowing this in for 1 year, you got to make compromises to get the bill done. But to simply say that fact-checking is by definition biased is a policy that I don't think anyone should support. And then finally, the statistics that Dr. McCormick cites about how basically whatever definition you come up with for left-leaning news versus right-leaning news, I will accept your definition, although that is a flawed process in the first place, that says that 91% of the left-leaning news was deemed accurate and 66% of the right-leaning news was deemed inaccurate. There are two possible explanations for that. One is bias. The other is that these right-leaning websites were not accurate. And there's ample evidence that the latter is the more likely outcome. We're all walking through the Jeffrey Epstein thing right now, where all of a sudden, now that the Trump administration is in charge, turns out that a lot of those conspiracy theories may not actually have facts to back them up. Where did that come from? That came from the New York Post and a lot of those other places that you cited. So please, let us not give up on truth. That is what this amendment does. It gives up on truth and says whatever people say is going to be just fine. I will even admit that this is sometimes a challenge, and sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes fact-checking organizations are wrong. They say something's not true that turns out to be true. That does happen. It will always happen no matter how hard you try. We should work to try to make that more accurate, but we shouldn't just have it in the policy of the defense bill that we don't care. Facts don't matter. Say what you want. We're not going to check it. Make the checking better. Don't get rid of it. So again, I will try to get us to defeat this amendment and not put this back into the defense bill. This one, of course, is worse than the others because it makes the lack of fact-checking permanent. But even doing it for 1 year would be a mistake. I oppose the amendment. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. DeLuzio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I won't repeat many of the same arguments the ranking member made. I voiced objections in prior markups of this bill about this provision. I think it's drafted in a sloppy way. I think the language that's in it now would essentially allow or would prohibit advertising in any kind of news platform that engages in fact-checking. And last I checked, I get fact-checked by Fox News. I get fact-checked by Breitbart and every other right-wing news outlet, as my Republican colleagues are fact-checked by more left-leaning news outlets. That's okay. That's American democracy in our press. I think let our Pentagon have the freedom to advertise where potential recruits are. I don't know why we're going down this path. So I won't repeat the arguments that the ranking member made, but I'll just share my objection to this amendment. With that, I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I urge my colleagues to oppose Dr. McCormick's amendment that seeks to limit any DOD engagement with fact-checking agencies. This is a matter of responsible journalism. Before my election to this Congress, I spent 22 years in local broadcast journalism. You don't earn the trust of the people by seeking fame or wanting to go viral, or certainly not by being a jerk on cable TV. Earning the trust of the people comes from repeated and due diligence of investigating data and information, creating a conduit of communication, making sure that what we do is based in fact and anchored in strong ethics. But if you're stuck watching Fox News or Newsmax all day, you've never seen an independent fact checker. Why? Because what they're giving you is not the news. It's conjecture, it's opinion, it's propaganda, with the sole purpose of fear-mongering and driving a right-wing political agenda. And in my life, as Mr. DeLuzio had said, I'm also not afraid of fact-checkers. But I have also been careful to make sure that what I speak is accurate. But I'm also willing to admit when my mistakes do occur. So I ask, why are my colleagues across the aisle so afraid of this accountability? Speaking truth is not Republican. Speaking truth is not Democrat. In this day and age of rumor and myth spreading on the internet like the world's biggest wildfire, we must hold ourselves to the highest standards. Let's make sure our nation is never led astray. I strongly oppose this amendment, and I hope my colleagues will do the same. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Van Orden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to yield my time to Dr. McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to talk about just briefly, the fact-checking. The fact-checking is more biased than the news agencies they're evaluating. That's the whole problem. Recruiting, and I happen to know a little bit about Marine Corps recruiting. Recruiting is about recruiting. Ironically, the last administration during this fact-checking witch hunt did horrible in recruiting. We say it was far publicized how bad we were doing in recruiting the people we need to accomplish a mission. Recruiters are they're evaluated on one thing. Can you recruit or can't you? Where are you going to find your trigger pullers, your aviators, the next generation of military people? wherever they're watching media. If it's subjectively said, I don't like what you're saying because of your opinion, therefore you're not allowed to advertise there, that is a problem with recruiting. I'm trying to solve a problem. You can see this administration is doing far better in recruiting. One of the reasons is because we're not biased on where we advertise. We're using recruiting dollars where it makes the most sense to get our military plus back up to where it needs to be. And that, my friends, is the most important mission of all. God bless you, and with that I yield.
Gentleman yields back. Does any other member seek recognition on Dr. McCormick's recognition? The ranking member is recognized.
This is something that's going to come up repeatedly. Just one quick comment. The recruiting actually was really good last year, too. Every little bit as good as it is this year. We're going to have that argument in greater detail later, I suspect, but I just want to throw that out there, and I yield back.
Does any other member seek recognition on Dr. McCormick's amendment? Seeing none, the question occurs on the amendment offered by Dr. McCormick. So many are in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. A recorded vote's requested. The recorded vote will be postponed until a later time.